Once again, my name is Trudy, and I'm the founding teacher here at InsightLA. And I want to welcome you all to our Sunday morning sitting group. Some of you have been coming to this group for years. Some of you may be new today. And if you are, what we do is we sit in meditation or lie down or stand up, whatever frame you put your body in to meditate. We sit in meditation for about a half hour, and then we have some teaching. It's approximately half hour, half hour, half hour. Then we have some teaching and then some conversation together with you. So I want to invite you to get your body settled in a comfortable way where you can sit quietly without moving around too much. When the body sits still, it helps the mind quiet down. So that's why we do that. And also because that tendency to fidget or to scratch an itch, or, I rub my nose, whatever your little fidgety habit might be. When we don't do it, when we catch ourselves, when we can be mindful of the impulse to do it, and then restrain ourselves from acting on that impulse, we actually learn something amazing, a kind of miraculous, an ordinary miracle, which is that itch usually just goes away. So like everything else, it passes and goes away. And we live in a kind of scratch your itch culture where that freedom is considered the freedom to scratch our itch, but we're actually exploring a different kind of freedom here together, which is the freedom to do something different and see what happens, and to develop enough awareness to be able to do that. So I'll do some guidance a little bit while we meditate. And today I want to share with you I found some old teaching letters from my very first teacher, Desan Sanim. So I'm going to share with you some of his teachings, and we'll do that just a little bit while we sit together. So beginning by listening to the sound of the bell all the way to its vanishing point. And taking a deep breath in and releasing that breath, relaxing. And another deep breath in, breathing in the aliveness of this moment. And with the out breath, relaxing, releasing as much tension as you can. And one more time, that energizing in-breath. And that calming out-breath. And just allowing the breath to move in its own natural rhythm. As the mind and heart settle down. And no matter how busy or agitated the mind may be this morning, you can always gently orient to the stillness of the body, just sitting here together. opening all the senses. We've explored the senses of seeing, hearing, touching, seeing what's happening in the mind and the heart, which are considered another sense, chitta, mind, heart. Hearing the sounds of life appear and disappear. Awareness of different touch points and sensations of touch arising and vanishing. And aware of any subtle smells, maybe the fragrance of a product you use on your body or your hair. Maybe the scent of fresh air or of jasmine coming through your window or car exhaust. And just noting, smelling. It might be a very subtle, subtle smell. And just noticing pleasant or unpleasant. The ease of opening to a pleasant fragrance. The turning away from the unpleasant. And when the mind gets distracted, pulled into the past or drawn into the future, once again, just being with the breath, resting the attention with the movement of the breath in the body. And moving the body back ever so slightly, maybe an inch, just stepping back into receiving the moment, not leaning out toward the next one or looking for anything. Just taking that backward step into receptivity, receiving this breath, this sound, this sensation, this scent. Everything you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, everything is the truth of this moment. Just this sound, just this sight, insight, just this sensation, just this fragrance, just this taste. This is the ever-changing truth. Just this breath, just this sound, just this feeling, so clear. Just this. Sitting back, allowing the breath, the world to come to you. The you who simply receives the truth of this moment. As it appears and vanishes. So once again, welcome everybody. I'm Trudy. I speak to you from the unceded lands of the Tongva, Kitsi, and a little further north, the Chumash tribes of the indigenous people who stewarded this land way before we ever got here. And today I want to share with you some teachings from their Zen teachings from my first teacher, the Korean Zen master, Daesan Sanim. And I'm going to read a piece of his teaching that I like it all, and it just makes me very happy to share it with you, including some of the letters that he wrote to me, specific teachings. He's talking about, when I was saying, as we were sitting, whatever you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, this is the truth of this moment. And when our minds are not occluded, sort of when that clarity, it's so clear, it's so simple and clear, but when that clarity is not blocked by our being lost in thought, it's very beautiful, and it is very simple and clear. And this is what he is calling our true nature, our Buddha mind, or Buddha, the awareness, this awareness. And this is what he's this is the realm of awakening, of enlightenment. And he says, if we keep on practicing, finally we enter this realm of enlightenment. And then everything we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, it's all clear. You know, he says, so what's the truth? You know, what's preventing us from becoming one with the universe, from becoming one with the truth? He said, you know, everything we see, hear, see, this is a refrain. It's like the refrain, the chorus, you know, everything we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, all are the truth. And when I first met him, I had been seeking, I had been really looking for the truth, for a way to understand some experiences that I'd been having. And my childhood friend, John Kabat-Zinn, and his best friend, Larry Rosenberg, took me to a talk by this teacher. We heard he was in Cambridge. He came to Cambridge to study English at Harvard Summer School. This was the summer of 1974, or maybe it's 1973. I'm not really sure, but wherever he went, he started a Zen center. A friend rented a house. He started a Zen center, and he stayed there while he went to summer school because his English really was not very good, and he was learning. And when I went to this talk, he said, this is the stuff he was saying. He would say, the sky is blue, the wall is white, the floor is brown. You know, this is the truth. And I couldn't explain why, but I had tears running down my cheeks because it was his clarity and his conviction. And I could see in his eyes just this sparkling, twinkling. I just knew that he knew something about the secret of how to live, and I wanted to know that too. So he says, what is the truth? Everything we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, all are the truth. The sky is blue, the tree is green, a dog is barking, sugar is sweet. Even though we live in the truth all the time, we forget because we're so busy knowing so much about everything. We forget our don't know truth. And he's the one who coined that phrase that has become kind of famous in meditation circles anyway, don't know mind. He said, we forget the don't know truth, just hearing, just listening, just seeing that receptive truth. And he says, great monks of old said, getting enlightenment is easier than drinking water when you're thirsty. But why is it that we don't know such an easy thing if it's really that easy, right? And he says, because we have so much thinking that occludes that clarity. He just says, we have so much thinking. What will we do with all that thinking? I'm quoting him now. What will we do with all that thinking? We have to practice to let our thinking go. If you have a mind that's thinking, give it to a passing dog. If you give away your mind, then you and the whole universe become one. At that time, everything you see and smell is real. The whole world is real and true. So I woke up this morning and I was thinking about what I was going to be teaching this morning. I pretty much knew from last night, but then I found these old letters that he had written to me. And I actually wept when I read them. It was so moving to me. I had not read these for, I don't know, many years. I found them in an old journal when I was looking for stuff about this teacher. And I also yesterday bought a new boogie board. My 20-year-old boogie board finally buckled and fell apart. So I wanted to just try it out quickly. I didn't have much, I didn't have a long time this morning, but I went down to the ocean and tried it out, and it works. And the water is lovely. I know, Neil, you're in Houston. I don't know if you can swim in the ocean there, but the water here is really lovely. And the waves are too big to go out past the surf break, at least for me today. But it was fun to just, sort of use the boogie board in the white water. And in the joy, first of all, the freshness and coldness, the immersion in the water, the wave after wave. There's no time to think, you know, you're just in it. You're just in that experience. And it's very real. The cold, the clear, the splashing, the sky, the air. It's very real and true. And it just washes away. It washes away all of our doubts and obsessions and worries and fears and anxieties and all of that. It just washes it away. It's a great blessing to have something like that to which you can give away your thinking. You know, for me, it's usually the water or swimming. But for you, it might be going for a walk. It might be gardening. It might be reading. It might be, you know, whatever it is. It's not that thinking is bad. He goes on to say, there's a place where he talks about that. If I can find it, it's really, he's talking about the difference between meditation and cognition. That's what he calls clear thinking. When we use our minds, you know, when we use our minds creatively, when we use our minds to problem solve, to do what we do in this life, we need our thinking. That's not the kind of thinking he's talking about. You know what he's talking about because you just practiced meditation for a half an hour. So you know exactly what he's talking about, which kind of thinking. And so that his teaching was really very simple. And he would teach, he taught this simple truth of, you know, just like this, things are what they are, a truth of clarity and beauty and simplicity. And then he would teach what he called correct function, like how do you use your understanding? How do you use your awareness? And he would give us these koans, and I'm going to give you one. I'm going to actually give you two, because I think when you realize the first one, and of course I'll help you, you'll get the second one. So he would do things like he would hold up a cup of tea or glass of water, and he would say, what is this? If you say that this is a glass of water, I will hit you 30 times. He never would hit us. It was an expression. I will hit you 30 times. If you say it's not a glass of water, I will hit you 30 times. So what is this? Now, he's pointing to the Buddha's middle way and how to realize it. He's saying, if you're attached to form and you say, oh, it's a glass of water, you know, what's your problem? No, that's not what he's looking for. If you say, on the other hand, oh, everything's empty, you know, the glass is empty, the water's empty, the piece of orange floating in it is empty, he'd say, you're attached to emptiness. No, that's not right. So what is the answer? Does any of you want to demonstrate, pretend you have a cup of tea or a glass of water? I can see a few of you. Yeah, thank you, Bob. Yes, thank you. This is the answer. Excuse me. Yeah, that's the answer. Say, okay, here's another one. Now this time I think everybody will understand. What is this? Right? If you say it's a bell, what am I going to do? I'm going to hit you 30 times because you're attached to name and form. Now, if you say it's not a bell, it's empty. It's just, you know, molecules in space floating around. Let's say, well, yeah, but you're attached to emptiness because there's something here. So what is the answer? You can pretend. Yes, yes, yes. You all understand this. So those are some of the ways that he taught us. And of course, the questions got more complex as we practiced. The answers were always simple, but the questions were always these, I don't know how to explain a koan. It's like a dialogue or a conversation or a little story that embodies or depicts a point of Buddhist psychology and philosophy, but through the action, through the function. in life of that psychology or of that philosophy. And that's what he was always teaching us, and for yourself, he would often say, well, honey and sugar are both sweet, right? Everybody knows this, but we know it up here, right? And how would you explain the difference in sweetness between honey and sugar? Even if you write pages and pages of subtle words of describing the sweetness of honey and the sweetness of sugar, right? You're not explaining the difference. But as soon as you taste honey, I see. And then you taste sugar. Oh, okay. I see the difference. You have to experience it. So all of the teaching in all the traditions really is geared toward direct experience of the aliveness of life, but through so many beautiful different methods and techniques and pathways up the mountain of realization. And fortunately, we have InsightLA. We have a place. Hopefully, we'll get back to our physical place. We have a place where we can come and get a taste, an actual real experience of what these teachings are pointing to. And at some point, then we realize, oh, okay, this is my mind, this is my mind can stay with this, at least for a few moments. And then gradually, how the mind is, it becomes clear, and we can locate our awareness, and it's called mindfulness. We talk about mindfulness in our tradition, and we can locate it. It always it just appears in front of us. It's what's here. We can see it. So I wanted to share with you of some of the teachings that were specifically teachings that he gave to me in his letters. And this was the days, right? People wrote letters. These are what his letters looked like. Typed letters. He didn't type, he would dictate them, and then a student would type them for him. And I wrote in the newsletter, I don't know how many of you read the little blog each week, but I wrote about a teaching that he gave me when I had been practicing at the Cambridge Zen Center for a few years, and I got into a new relationship, and we had 3 kids we were raising, 2 of his, 1 of mine, and I just wasn't going to the Zen Center as often, and sometimes not even once a week for the Dharma talk. And so he had, expressed that he missed me and I should come once a week to the Dharma talk. And I just said, I wrote him a lovely letter, and I just said, I'm actually too busy right now. And he wrote me a lovely letter back full of lots of teaching, but there was one line, as I said in the little blog, that really snagged my attention. And if you don't, you should subscribe to the InsightLA newsletter, and then you can see my blogs on Friday morning, or the ones of other teachers here at InsightLA. It's usually me, but it's other teachers are chiming in too, which is wonderful. And the sentence that caught my attention and made me really, sit back on my heels, he said, "Too busy is a lie." I wasn't lying. I was a working mom, 3 kids at home, had practice to sustain. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't exactly true either. The truth is, it wasn't what was most important to me right then. What was most important to me was my new relationship and the family that we were creating together. And so if I had just reacted to his saying "too busy" as a lie by getting offended and saying, oh, he doesn't really know what he's talking about. He's never been a mother and he's never had a job. And meanwhile, of course, he gives his whole life he's a monk, to teaching. If I had reacted that way, I wouldn't have learned anything, but listening and then looking deeply, I realized in a certain way, he's right. It wasn't completely true. And he says, "I understand you're very busy." Anyway, I've already made that point. I'm going to read you another one. He's telling me about, I sent him birthday wishes. He's telling me about the birthday celebration that they had. And then he says, you sent me news of your daughter Hillary's bicycle accident. She knocked out, she knocked out 2 front permanent teeth in a bad bicycle accident when she was 10 years old. He said, this makes me sad, but a good situation is a bad situation, and a bad situation is a good situation. You already understand. You must teach Hillary about this. And then he goes on to say, not only Hillary, but you should teach your parents too. You're already a great Dharma teacher. He made me a teacher very early, and anyway, at the time I really had trouble accepting that. I didn't have any confidence, and I was totally shy. He said, this is your Dharma teacher's duty, and you're already a good Dharma teacher, so you need to do this. And then he goes on, he gives every letter was just full of teaching. And then in the next letter, that was August 4th. In the next letter he wrote back August 18th. I wish I had kept all these letters, at least I have a few. He said, first, let me just pause for a minute. Do you know what he means by a good situation is a bad situation, and a bad situation is a good situation? You know, he means when we're in a suffering place, we usually are motivated to practice. So the bad situation becomes a good one because it drives us deeper into ourselves and into our practice. And when everything's going smoothly and everything's hunky-dory, and, you know, I don't know, we're at the beach, whatever, it's summer, the pandemic seems to be winding down, we're not as lonesome anymore, hopefully. When all of this is going on, who wants to sit on Zoom and be at a retreat? Or, you know, we don't want to practice so much. And maybe it's just more tempting to go down and try out my new boogie board than to meditate in the morning. Oh, I'll meditate later with them at sitting group, right? That's what a good situation becomes a bad situation for your meditation practice. That's what he was talking about. But then he said, oh, in your letter, you said that Hillary's mouth healed quickly and she looks wonderful, and that living through the experience of the accident brought you all closer together. Now I'm telling him things are good, right? Everything is better. So here's what he says. Many people have a good situation, then they become attached to the good situation. So they want to hold on to it. But this good situation cannot be held. It is impermanent. This good situation is only a feeling. When situations change, feelings change. That means good feelings disappear and bad feelings come. Then people suffer. But if you have a direction, good situations and bad situations both help a lot because they're both true. And experience is a good education. And then, of course, he goes on and on. But I thought that was interesting because, you know, bad news, and he will point out the positive side for learning and for our, when he says direction, he means the direction of understanding ourselves and living a life that's based on mindful awareness and loving awareness. That's what he's talking about. And then when I report the good news, he takes the other side. You know, there's no place to rest. There's no place to just settle down and say, okay, now I got it. This is how it is. This is how it's going to be, right? No, the other side is, well, those are good feelings and they will change. So don't get attached to them. And it's said very lovingly, I feel. You know, I didn't feel he was, it's just very loving. And then he responds to my having probably justified my not coming to the center. I don't know, because I don't have all the letters we exchanged. I just have a few. But this one too, he says, you said your whole life is practicing, and you're practicing a lot on your own. And he said, you're a Dharma teacher. What's most important? This is 1976, y'all. Money, fame, food, family, everyday life, all are important, but which one is most important? If you die tomorrow, What can you do? Will money be necessary? Fame, food, family, everyday life? Um, I understand you're busy, but you still must come to the Zen Center. So, um, he's talking about um, getting attached to your situation. And the last thing I want to share with you is this letter, which I love. This is from 1978. And I want to just show you the letter because it has a calligraphy of Bodhidharma, who is the legendary figure who is said to have walked all the way from India to China to bring Buddhist practice to China. Now, there was already Buddhist philosophy, but nobody was really teaching the practice. And so Bodhidharma brought Buddhism to China, where it merged with Taoism and became Chan, or Chinese Zen. Again, he's thanking me for birthday wishes. And he says, you say you did a retreat alone up in the hills for a couple weeks in a funky little trailer. It was actually mountains in the woods where you could practice alone. That's wonderful. And you also say that now you understand about not hiding your Dharma treasure. He was on me about the shyness and the lack of confidence. And he just called it, being attached to your condition. And, and he said, you're hiding your Dharma treasure. Don't. So I guess in 1978, I felt ready to, come out from under the bushel, or whatever the expression is. But this is what I wanted to share with you. He said, an eminent teacher said, one by one, each thing is complete. I love this teaching. Each sound, each smell, each taste, each touch, each thought, each thing is complete, one by one. One by one, each thing has it. It interpenetrates with all things. It is already apparent and in all things. And then he goes on to say, and I will say this to each one of you. So you are complete. You are complete as you are. Everything is complete. And when you have this, everything has this. When your mind and heart feel that whatever's happening is enough, not enough forever, just for this moment, it's complete, then everything is freed to be enough and to be complete. That's what he's teaching. He's saying, open your eyes, open your ears, open your mouth. Everything is treasure. Oh, here's where he says, so keeping a mind which is clear like space and using your mind, meticulous and perfect. It's meticulous and perfectly complete. Do you feel like your mind is meticulous and perfectly complete? I know Rick just rolled his eyes, but it is. It is. He says the name for keeping this mind is meditation. And the name for using this mind is cognition. Meditation and cognition coming together is good practicing. And then you get wisdom. And then he goes on, you're a great, wonderful Dharma teacher. He's trying to give me some confidence. So I just wanted to share some teachings that really uplifted me today. And it's fun, I feel, and I hope you do too. It's fun. This is, I'm a Dharma nerd. This is my idea of fun. It's fun to find the teachings in different traditions. You are hearing teachings about wisdom and compassion and mindfulness and loving awareness, but you can hear those teachings in what he's saying, right? You can recognize all the teachings that we teach in our Theravada tradition of insight meditation. It's just, there's something, it's like diving into the ocean with your new boogie board. There's something refreshing about hearing them in a different words and a different style. So yeah, this is what I feel overjoyed to share with you today. And And now I want to open up to any questions or reflections that we call it Q&R now, questions and reflections that you may have. It doesn't have to be about what I've said. And by the way, this teacher's name, I call him Daesan Sanim. Sansanim was his monk's name. In the Korean tradition, when you turn 60, you're 20 years, you get the prefix D-A-E, which means great in Korean. But his actual name is Reverend Sung San. But you can find him either way. So if you have something you'd like to say or ask, it could be anything about your practice, just raise your hand and Kathy will call on you and you can unmute yourself. So you can raise your hand like Cindy, or you can use the raise hand function from the reaction button toward the bottom of your screen if you're on a, I don't know where it is on the iPad. I'm on a MacBook Air. There's a raise hand icon in the reaction button.
Yeah, it's either in reactions or if you have an older one, it's where participants is. Depends on which version of Zoom you have. Yeah. And you can also ask me if you don't want to ask it, if you want to stay anonymous, you can ask it to me privately and I'll read it out. And if you want to just raise it in the thing, I'll try and see you. It's hard having a lot of light. I'm outside. Reflection. But
I'll help you if I see somebody, Kathy. I'll just tell them, yeah. But Cindy is first. Can you unmute yourself, Cindy?
Yeah.
There
well,
you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Trudy. I found it really very moving in the meditation when you said to sit back and receive. Yeah. And that was totally new for me because I was sort of always so focused on watch the breath in and out that I never really appreciated the gift of incoming breath. And so, and also, I think I sort of tend to lean forward a little bit, which is part of my planning, future.
Everyone does, yeah.
Yeah, so that, I really appreciated that. Thank you.
But I can't take credit for it. I'll take credit for the physical, the embodiment of it, but the teaching itself of taking the backward step I talk about often here. It comes from the 13th century Japanese Zen teacher, Dogen Zenji. And he really taught that when I'm going to paraphrase rather than quote him, but when we approach experience with our agendas, when the self goes forward to meet the myriad things, is the phrase that he uses. This is delusion, but when we step back and receive the moment, then the myriad things awaken us and enlighten us with that truth of what you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, the truth of the moment. So I actually practiced doing it physically and found that when I moved my body back, there was this subtle relaxation in my whole face, and the thinking quieted down too. So probably, back then when he taught the moving back. I don't know, I've never heard that part, but that is what I discovered and share a lot because it's helpful, like you say. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you didn't understand what he was talking about or what I was talking about as I quoted him, don't hide your Dharma treasure. Your Dharma treasure is your questions and your reflections and, how things are landing in you. So yeah, feel free.
Rick,
And I know
your
often, oh, okay. I was gonna say,
sorry,
I know often,
yeah.
I'm gonna say this, I know often the same people will raise their hands, and that's not a criticism. It's really just saying, acknowledging that when there's a lot of quiet, it's sort of a community service to raise your hand. So thank you, Rick.
Rick, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We don't
Yes.
see you. I don't know if that's.
I can see you.
Oh, maybe I just don't. Okay. Yeah, we can hear you.
I think it's just the light probably outside,
Maybe, yeah.
Kathy.
Wondering, Trudy, what you make of that your path crossed with this teacher who influenced you so greatly. Your general thoughts on, are there accidents? Are there no accidents? That sort of discussion. So
Tell me where you're coming from with this question, Rick. I'm always going to ask you that because I don't want you to ask just sort of disconnected. I want your question to be connected to something you care about for yourself.
Well, believe it or not, that's the answer. Part of me, of course, wants to believe there are no accidents. So I'm looking to a teacher to ask if that was your experience here.
I don't know if it was an accident or not. I just know that it happened. I can't answer that. Now, in other traditions, like Ramana Maharshi, the great Indian saint, taught that basically everything is preordained, and the wisdom of whatever you want to call God is basically orchestrating things all the time for your learning and growth and understanding more and more deeply who you truly are. That's not a teaching in this tradition exactly. So I don't know is my most honest answer. Sometimes things do feel when we experience, and the more you meditate, the more synchronicity you will experience. And in those moments of synchronicity, it does feel as though, oh, this was meant to be, or this is right. But I don't know.
She's living in a commune above Taos.
Wait, mute yourself, Robert. But I'm glad to know that Kathy's living in a commune above Taos because I love Taos. And I love Lama too. Well, I haven't been there for decades, but love that place with a 100-mile view of the mesa and the mountains. Yeah, so Matthew, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi Trudy, thanks.
Hi.
Just a brief reflection. I just wanted to say how meaningful that Zen koan was about the glass of water. I have to say when when you first said it, my immediate reaction was what? And I truly was stumped, but amazingly my stumping didn't last long, and it just suddenly really clicked with me very strongly because I felt like it encapsulated so much of what I'd been learning in this practice. And the thing that was particularly striking about it was, because it was about something so tangible and real, a glass of water, right? Like it wasn't about a state of mind or a feeling or a thought, which kind of come and go, but about like this right here that I can hold in my hand. The thought that that this can be, can just be an experience, and knowing that I'm, even something as real and tangible as this, I'm bringing so much story and narrative and judgment and past experience and all that kind of stuff to it, rather than just having the experience of this, was just really powerful encapsulation I felt of so much that I've learned. So thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for telling us. That's really cool. I really, in the Vipassana teachers or the insight meditation teachers would talk about the difference between concept and reality, but this is such an economical, vivid way of expressing that, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. Meredith, do you want to unmute yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for your teaching this morning.
Good morning.
Congratulations on your new boogie board.
Thank you.
Sure, I love swimming in the ocean. Let's see. Well, I feel like sort of I got what you were saying. And I love the step back part. For me, well, just last night I did a little step back. I didn't call it that, but, and I could feel so much more tenderness and kindness toward myself.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. I'm just cheering about that, but go ahead.
Thank you. And about not knowing, I feel like in some ways I feel like I'm starting practice all over again. Of course, I don't think that's possible, but you know how that is. But
it's called beginner's mind, Meredith.
Yeah, I forget that's all I've got. But thank you. I'm discovering more, I guess you'd say, that it's safe to not know. And I don't know how you call it, but there wasn't any, I don't know, I don't want to go too far back, but I've been way out of awareness of connection all my life. And by the grace of the spinning cosmos, I'm not there now. So nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you too. And by the way, I like your haircut. Go ahead.
Do you? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
I like your hair up. I think you look really nice with your hair up.
Thank you.
Well,
sorry for the girl talk. Go ahead.
I know. It's kind of fun, but well, I don't know how it happened, but I looked at a picture once of the Dalai Lama's translator, the wonderful man who's been his translator.
Jimpa.
Yeah. And I guess I'd heard a few talks by him. I'm not sure. I don't remember. And I don't know how these kinds of experiences occur, or at least I don't. Anyway, maybe I know, but I'm out of touch. And he was sitting, and I could tell looking at him, I could feel looking at him that it's safe to go as far as I want.
That's a gift. That's a huge gift.
It is. Is that what that is? I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it because I know me better than to do that. You know, it's a place meaning I get complicated fast. So this morning, like toward the end, so I was, allow is a big word for me, or I may, rather than, certainly I should, but, or I can doesn't do it for me. I'm an enormous striver, but I may, you know, this is for me also. So that experience, somehow I can pull it up with him or in relation to him. And I practiced with that this morning in your talk. And I think it has everything to do with resting, feeling safe to rest. Not the kind of resting I do a lot of that isn't really like Netflix, but that is also sort of, but I don't know, toward the end of your talk, I just couldn't do it. I mean, anyway, it sounded very intellectual. This, all these little pieces, if there's, I don't know, but but I've had that experience of resting and just this, but it seems to me, and what seemed, no offense, left out, it's the tenderness that comes with it.
You're right. And I want to say that what got left out in my talk was I didn't finish the part about correct function. You know, the correct function, it's using experience, but it's using it in a particular way, as Pope Francis called it, a revolution of tenderness. It's using it for the good. It's using it to help others. And, you know, he even says in his own teaching, let's see, I think I dropped the page, but I wanted to quote him. But basically, he's saying that the correct function of the practice and the reason why we practice is, oh, here it is. What is correct teaching? What is correct function? It's to help all suffering beings. If a person is hungry, give them food. If someone is thirsty, give them water. If someone needs our help, just help them. That's our function. In other words, that's the purpose of the practice. So I want to thank you very much. Took a little circuitous way to get there, but we got there. And you're pointing to something that is allowing me to, in a way, finish the talk. So thank you.
Can I make a quick comment? And you're totally welcome. Just
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I always feel like I take too much time, but I talk.
It just takes you a while to get to what it just takes. You know, I think of the way that you speak. You know how a dog just kind of circles a little and then they land. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really like that. That's true.
I know.
Yeah, I know. Well, okay. Now we both know. What was I going to say? Oh, I don't know. What was this thing you said? Oh, the thing is, you know, the wording, it took me years and years and years and years to be able to feel compassion, to live with my compassion. So I don't know if it's me or, you know, is it me or you or what, or, you know, Dogen, but I personally wonder about, or like when I correct function doesn't do it for me. I need the words of heart, and I don't know.
Right. Now, those were not, he's a Korean man who used those kinds of words, but you know what he's pointing to. He's pointing to your heart.
See, I didn't.
He's pointing to your bodhisattva path. That's what he's pointing to compassionate heart.
I didn't know that. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you had me clarify that. He's pointing to the heart. And by the way, I just want everybody to know, I met Meredith, 35 years ago? Something like that. Sitting with my teacher, Maureen Stewart, at the Cambridge Buddhist Association, not the Cambridge Zen Center, but nearby. And that's kind of fun. Yeah, thank you.
That's right.
Thank you. Yeah. Sherry, do you want to unmute yourself?
Thanks, Trudy.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm wanting just to have you clarify a little, if possible. I'll say my question and then I'll say what brought it up. Sometimes when I'm meditating, I become unclear between like the role of past memories and emotions that come into the current meditation. And I know the intention is to be in the present, but for example, this morning I happened to open my eyes and see the clock was 11:11, and when that happens, I always think of my mother because she had some delight for some reason when all of the clock numbers were the same. So I think of it in a kind of a sweet, quirky way. And also, though, my thoughts went back to very quickly to some periods of time, like when I was 4 or 5, when I was experiencing a lot of terror and fear, which kind of surged a bit. And then as I was just trying to be with those sensations, with kindness and self-compassion, then I felt the sadness under it or with it. And then, so it was helpful because I feel like it was a bit of a moment of healing.
Yes.
And my brain wants to say, oh, but you're supposed to be in the present moment. And that
But
was
you are. You
okay.
are. This is a question that comes up for people a lot, Sherry. You know, those past memories are surfacing in the present moment. So you're not lost in the past when you have a past memory, as long as you are aware this is a memory. You know, you can even make a light note to yourself, remembering. It's inevitable because we are, I don't know how to describe our kind of creatures. It's like Marcel Proust, you know, certain smells, certain things, just they evoke other things. Sitting quietly, it allow, and feeling safe when you sit quietly here, it allows, it's like the whole organism knows, okay, it's safe. Now I can let this bubble up and be healed, you know? And then when you meet what bubbles up, that terror, that memory, with compassion, with kindness, you know, it is healing. And it's all happening in the present moment. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And it's all happening because you feel safe in the present moment. Like it's not a mistake.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want to unmute yourself, Clark? And then Cameron?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for sharing the letters and the view back into a moment in time with you and teachers, and thinking about 76 was really fun for me. I was struck by the moment in life you're in where your response was, I'm a mother, I'm busy, I have kids. The life is spinning around me in a different way than when I wasn't a mother and I wasn't overwhelmed by a relationship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I find myself sometimes in life in one of two gears. Sometimes it seems like there's an abundance of space to do things like bring awareness to my daily tasks and to things around me. And it's a very steady, wonderful life, easier to access right mind, right actions, awareness, things like that. And then the last 2 years, I've had some incidences where like my son was at risk of life and death. And this past week, I spent on the East Coast with an extended friend that I've known for 60 years. And she tried to kill herself a week ago. And I spent the week with her just kind of being there because she didn't have many other people around. And I feel flooded in these moments. I feel, I don't know if, so I ask myself, how is it all the same? It's the same as the moments when the water is relatively tranquil, but I feel so flooded with the moment. I feel responsibility, huge responsibility. I feel, concern and just overwhelmed with. Am I sad? Am I compassionate? Do I need to jump in and protect? And it seems to me, they're two different gears, but I'm trying to make the sense out of sometimes it seems really huge and other times it just seems.
What you did was so generous and loving. And there's also, we know this, some sort of secondary trauma to people who accompany people who are in their own trauma. And it is flooding. And the Buddha actually wrote a whole teaching, there are always stories and dialogues and interactions, oral tradition, but there's a whole teaching about crossing the flood, these floods, just what you're talking about, the floods of emotion, the floods of intense experience, and how do you cross the flood? And, it's coming back to moment mindfulness. He says, if you try to just push your way across the river, the flooded river, you're going to drown in it. And those are those moments when we do drown in the flood, and it's overwhelming, and if you just linger and say, okay, I'll just be with the flood, you're going to get swept down the river. If you push too hard, you'll exhaust yourself. If you don't push enough, you get swept away. So it's just like this step by step, sort of very methodical, plodding kind of mindfulness at that point. You're not going for inspiration, you're going for survival. And thank you, because this is real. And we do get flooded, and crossing the floods, it's a big subject, how to cross the floods. And it leads into, you can look at practically all the teachings from that perspective, that's what they're for. So thank you. And there's more to say. We can do that next week. I did say I would call on Cameron, but I see that our time is up and he seems to have disappeared. If you're still here, Cameron, bring your question next week, okay? Oh, wait a minute. No, next week is my friend Beverly's memorial service that I'm part of. I just realized that. So I will either teach and leave early, or if that's too squashed in terms of time, you will have a sub who will be one of our wonderful InsightLA teachers. And I'm always interested if you have requests, people who've come and taught that you enjoyed particularly. You can let Kathy know, because that's very helpful to me to know what, who you'd like to hear from. In the meantime, let's before the breakout groups, which are there going to be great breakout groups today, Kathy?
Yes, I was just putting it in the chat. Feel free to stay for small groups. We'll do a little bit of work, and we'll take a 10-minute break. So come back at 1:40. Bring a snack if you'd like.
Okay, terrific. Let's just sit for a moment together before that. We take a moment and come back to silence. The silence of appreciation and gratitude for having the chance to be together and practice together, study some teachings, listen to each other, learn more about how to live a wise and compassionate life. And we express this gratitude by offering the goodness of our practice, the goodness of all of this to everyone, to all beings everywhere without exception. May we and all beings do what Sansanim always ended all his letters with. May we and all beings keep our don't know mind, which is clear like space, become enlightened and save all people from suffering. So Kathy put her email in the chat if you want to let her know of, what teacher you might want to hear back from. And it's going to be a surprise. for you.
I also put
who's
some
here
up-
next week.
If you scroll a little bit, I put some upcoming events and some links if you want to take a look at those.
All right. Thank you very much, Kathy, and have a wonderful time at Llama. And everybody, feel free to unmute yourselves and say hi, goodbye. And I will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you,
all.
Trudy.
Have a good
Bye.
day.
Have a
Thank you.
great
Thank you,
week.
everyone. Thank you, Trudy.
Bye.
Small
Thank
groups
you.
in 10.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you.